is was there a perfect confluence of events that took place? There's a lot of complaints from students about that during the process. It seemed that the people promoting BUSA's mental health awareness and getting the surveys out were in many ways could be construed as doing passive campaigning for the student life fee, and I personally feel that way. Many others do, but like Josh said, it's not going to affect anything right now. So I want to go into a few things here. Yeah, there was considerable overlap. This is a quote from the Toronto Star. You guys can read that. You don't really need me to repeat it for you if you guys see that. Yeah, sure. Okay, so 2 people came up to me so far from varsity athletics, and these are the allegations. They felt intimidated and threatened by their peers because supposedly when I asked basically how was this petition brought to you, how did they try to get it signed, and they said that basically it was kind of closed meetings where they felt that the captains of their teams brought it to them, and they felt pressured by their peers to sign it, even when they didn't want to. And these 2 people, still to this day, don't want to be recognized by their names. So I feel that the intimidation they felt is real. So I think that's just necessary to put on record and have that be known. So yes, slide. So BUSAC is just my opinions about what we did and where we failed in certain ways. All presentations, as you probably know, may feel the same way, were dominated by the faculty representatives who were here. It felt like, I'm sorry, Ms. Field, the actual student who formally brought the presentation forward, I felt that she was here as a token student representative. Her impact on the presentation was negligible. She really didn't have to be there for the information to be conveyed, and I didn't really feel that she had anything to do with it. I can't say that proved it outright, but that was just not my feeling from what I got from the presentation. I felt it was also very evasive. So student life fee is composed of what I would say to be 3 disparate fees, so very dissimilar fees that were omnibused for the stated purpose of conceiving of health management or health improvement in a holistic fashion, which is a very, very new agey term and everything, and they did not qualify what they meant by that, and I don't really feel that it was justified. So this is our response, and again, they make vague allusions to holistic well-being and such. I felt that there were multiple violations of bylaw 650, 675, as well as I was kind of disappointed by our response. We suspended the bylaws, which are unjustified and inequitable to previous referendum campaigns, because they might come to us and say, well, why did you do that in that case and not in our case? And that might also be in the future. I know we're not bound by precedent, but we should kind of care about how we present ourselves to the students. And I felt that we really, why don't we just get rid of our bylaws if we're so willing to suspend them whenever it seems it's easier to do so than follow them? That's just my personal opinion. Slide. So this is violations of bylaw 675. The most important part here I put in red was that a BUSAC election, which includes a referendum, if it wants to run in that cycle, must be approved by the last meeting in January. That was not done. It was the last meeting in February. Even though there was one, I think, on the 26th of January when they first presented, but it was not ratified or we didn't approve it that day. Again, BUSAC sought to violate its own bylaws and defer judgment to the last meeting in February, and I don't really agree with this. I don't think it shows good governance or doing our job in any way. Slide. This is just Brock News recognizing the capital grant that they got with Niagara College for the next 3 years, I believe, in excess of $360,000 and change for mental health initiatives in the region, including the website and such. So slide. So this was a big thing that was important to me. I sifting through it, and it's called the Ontario Operating Funds Distribution Manual for Universities. And I presume that there's one for colleges as well. Section 5.2 outline compulsory ancillary fees. And it goes into detail about what they are, how they should be treated, and the processes by which they can be implemented and by some government and many things like that. And I feel that we didn't really go, we didn't satisfy the conditions of this legislation. This is not ours, this is the government's. Now, it's important to recognize the last 2 lines there. Effective the 1st of September, 1991, the province, all compulsory ancillary fees for items eligible for capital grants were also prohibited. Any revenue resulting from such fees will heretofore be considered to be tuition fee revenue, which is kind of euphemistic term, which basically means tuition fees or something that should be covered by tuition, but it's given a nice other name. And like I outlined there, I feel that the mental health component of the student life fee falls within this, because at the moment, say like if you go to the student development center or something, you want to see a counselor, a personal counselor or something, they get that money from the operating budget, which comes from tuition fees and things like that. So that falls within that, and we're subsidizing and supplementing something that is within could be considered will be paid from tuition. So slide. So also from that, all compulsory ancillary fees levied by the university or related institution must be non-tuition related, as above defined above. The last two are really important. In my opinion, the student life fee mental health component is considered tuition fee revenue as per section 5.2 cited above. Slide. Yes. And this is something they also say. I don't know if you want me to read it out loud, or if you can just read it yourself, but I'll kind of read it. In regard to the compulsory non-tuition related ancillary fees referenced in item 4 and item 5 above, section 5.2, institutions must comply with the following provisions. 1, institutions must provide a full rationale for each fee, including the reasons for which the compulsory nature at the time it was submitted to the governing body, so us, for approval. And this is kind of like a rhetorical question. Were we provided a full rationale as to why this was not only really necessary, many people have misgivings about this fee, but were we really properly demonstrated that it should be compulsory? The full rationale is why it should be compulsory. Or were the presentations evasive? And I found them kind of evasive. I know for a fact that I exhausted my 3 speaking terms, yet I'm only cited in the minutes once. And I'm not saying anything about how the minutes are taken down, but I just felt that it didn't reflect what really happened. Slide. So this is really long and nebulous, but what it goes into saying is basically that let's get the next thing. Is to provide the above rationale for students. Yeah, I'd like a minute.
Yeah, Mr. Nichols, we're already speaking time. Yeah. May I have a motion to extend speaking time by 5 minutes? Is this friendly? Continue, Mr. Nichols.
Okay, thank you. I'm not going to go read through everything because that'll take most of my speaking time, but because I trust you guys obviously can read. And so I'll begin my commentary about it and like what I think is most salient about these points. Another hypothetical kind of, do you feel that all of your concerns were addressed? I certainly really don't. I don't feel that my concerns were addressed by the presenters. I felt that they were evasive, and in all honesty, I felt that it was being condescended to in many of the answers that they did provide to not only my questions, but questions brought forward by other counselors. The presenters were reticent, so they were very unforthcoming about when explaining how the fee came about, and we know for a fact that it was presented in some capacity. I don't know all the nuances of it, to Dowd at some point when he was in the BUSAC exec. So are we to believe that this is a completely differently conceived fee from the one that was presented to the executive maybe last year or the year before? Like I said, I don't know the specifics about that. You'd have to ask Dowd, or you'd have to find out from him. But I feel that the tentacles, so to speak, of the university are all over this fee, and it's being presented and pushed through BUSU as a conduit for this type of legislation, and because they can't do it themselves. That's my personal opinion. Now, they didn't explain how it came to be, and in my opinion, I don't think they fulfilled the above required recommendations and requirements in this legislation. Slide. So this is something that's very important. It outlines basically should an institution do exactly what I believe they did, which is wrongfully push through, say, this ancillary fee and try to make it seem like it was students and such. Institutions' operating grant will be reduced by an amount commensurate, so by the amount of money that corresponds to the revenue raised by the fee or the fee increase. So that essentially means if they make, say, there's $1.8 million next year off this, and they've been found that that they're in violation of this legislation, they will then lose $1.8 million to bring that back to their net zero position in their budget. And I also thought it was important to, because I didn't really know what operating grant meant. There's a lot of really nuancy terms when it comes to reading legislation, so I looked it up. And as it's interpreted by our provincial government, operating grant means the funding our university receives for its day-to-day procedures. Slide. So here's just a bit of the fee breakdown. I'm just going to go straight to the mental health part. And to me, it's clear from reading the legislation thoroughly that it is eligible for capital grants. Ergo, it's to be considered under the term tuition fee revenue, and not an actual ancillary fee. So pursuant to Section 5.2 of that operating fund,